Your fault, Plain Jane Lane 03. After giving birth, your hormones and body have been through a lot of trauma, so there's no need to be sensible. Plus, you were on your own to complete the task, although his brother was exempt. He was accompanied by his sister, her best friend, his parents, and his sister. Even though he wasn't physically present, you still had your dad. Your decision to reevaluate your relationship with this man is understandable, in my opinion. He must be the most dim-witted man in the world if he isn't cheating. Despite his ineffectiveness toward you, you should allow him to have a relationship with his daughter. Update: I appreciate everyone's responses. I should have told him he may hold and then asked him to leave. I feel terrible for using my child against him. Thus, the divorce is likely to take place. Looking for legal representation for me is my brother. In the thick of it all, reading this post brought it to my attention that I was too preoccupied with Anna to check in on her brother's recovery. He informed me over the phone that he is doing okay and plans to get out of his wheelchair soon after I phoned. He was concerned for my well-being and that of the baby, as well as my husband and Anna, and my progress through the divorce. That I was so unaware is unbelievable. This led me to believe that there was some sort of emotional issue between them, but when I asked my husband about it, he rejected the accusation, asserting that our baby and I were his top priorities, and that he had acted foolishly. Actually, I was 7 months along in my pregnancy when my husband and I broke up, but Anna's brother and her parents had the good sense to tell me that we were back together. The fact that he wasn't there with his pregnant wife was completely overlooked because he arrived at the hospital in his boyfriend's identity, Anna. We apparently broke up. Since her brother's treatments were completed before lunchtime, I have no idea what my husband and Anna were up to during that time. Moreover, I am not interested in knowing. Feel free to leave a remark for me if you would like further specifics. Much obliged for the thoughtful comments and suggestions. Returning home and formally requesting full custody are my next steps. I hope my child doesn't turn out to be anything like Anna or her dad. He is free to be anyone he wants to be, including a fun dad. Last but not least, I'm considering taking a vacation from Reddit now that I've realized that venting online isn't good for me. We appreciate the support from everyone. I'll handle it now. Comments Melon with Piers. His wife had a stillbirth and several miscarriages, and he chooses to have an affair, missing the birth of their child. And his extramarital lover chooses to contact his wife to express her displeasure with her treatment of her misunderstood husband? In other words, G1 Gestalt. I debated about turning this into a Beru article at first as the plot is so predictable and easy to understand. However, upon further reflection, it becomes increasingly apparent that both this individual and his accomplice are incredibly repulsive. OMG, the guy got so many calls that his daughter was about to be delivered, but he still went out on a booty call in the middle of the night, despite the fact that the baby was tucked away like a jack-in-the-box, ready to spring out at any second. Poor Oop might have to deal with a stillbirth all by himself. However, he ultimately determined that it wasn't significant enough to delay finishing his business. That pause is just jaw-dropping. Not at all. The most insanity-inspiring aspect is that he disregarded the possibility that his child was stillborn for 5 hours. Apart from his own enjoyment, this person couldn't care less about anything. Someone else whose grave deserves to be peed on now has another addition to the list. That list is growing larger with every post, so I'm going to need to drink a lot. Falca, who are you? I took a screenplay class a long time ago. The use of plot/sequences to heighten the drama was one of the lessons we learned about drama. For example, when you've put your characters in the worst possible predicament, you should make it much worse. To wit, the tale of this unfortunate woman accomplishes precisely that. She and her unborn child have my deepest sympathies. What a horrible human being. Living 101, Phase 1:1. I don't recommend being emotionally dependent on your spouse to anyone, leaving in the wee hours of the morning with little time to spare. The news is awful. 2. Unfortunate people are those who assume you're being cruel when in fact they're the one who can't be reached for no apparent reason. This is Swipe definitely didn't teach her about love is, so I hope she meets someone who changes her life for the better someday. 58 Pink Roses. Especially when the arrival of the baby is imminent for your wife. The fear of giving birth alone compounds after a string of miscarriages or stillbirths. The man strode out the door without a word of hesitation. The following story is up next. Tale No. 2. Opted for our daughter's baby's arrival rather than our twins' graduation. We are attempting to make amends with them, but they are now treating us like trash and are giving us the quiet treatment. Me and my hubby, who is 48 years old. Married to my beautiful husband, who is 47 years old. We have 3 children, twins, 18 months and 18 days old, and a 25-year-old daughter. We just went through a really tough patch, and now our twins are really mad with us. I don't know if we made the right choice. We're really conflicted. Concurrent with the twins' high school graduation was our eldest daughter's expected baby shower. The day of the graduation ceremony happened to be her due date, as luck would have it. Our daughter wanted us to be there for her when she gave birth to our first grandchild, and she was understandably nervous. The decision to be there for her was difficult, but we knew we could make amends with the twins when the time was right. We tried to explain everything to the twins so they would understand, but it was obvious they were let down. After that, they stopped responding to us and started ignoring us entirely. Going out, grocery shopping, and celebrating graduation without us have all been things they've been up to recently. Observing their pain and disconnection breaks my heart. The fact that they aren't watched me holding it. My husband's constant presence was making me anxious, so I wanted a few days to relax and bond with the kid. My emotions were running high. Something terrible would transpire whenever I felt anxious. So I informed him. They hang out together, but I'm not feeling it when it comes to him. I don't know if I'm still the bad guy, but he has already put Anna ahead of me previously, and I'm still furious with him. This time was the last straw. The previous time I was able to forgive because I could manage it. I was concerned that my baby would suffer harm the second I touched her, and I had no one to reassure me, so I was terrified to hold her. I was hesitant to forgive my husband because the only person who could have helped me during the delivery was my dad, and he wasn't. Accomplishments and demonstrate our concern, so we came up with the idea of doing something special. It appears that this plan also failed to close the gap. We are truly bewildered and burdened with sorrow. Hopefully, kids will grasp the significance of both occasions and we will be able to commemorate their graduation with more fervor at a later date. However, after witnessing their response, we can't help but question whether we erred greatly. So AITA, you're mad at me for putting the birth of our grandson ahead of our twins' high school graduation? This has sown discord in our family, and we are in dire need of guidance on how to put things right. Comments Corgi Huntress, AITA. After reading the comments from Ops, it seems like they could have simply sent one parent to the graduation, and they totally forgot about the twins when the older daughter went into labor. Based on their behavior, I can also infer that the parents frequently rank the twins lower than everyone else. According to AITA, why didn't anyone attend the graduation? Was there a spouse or partner accompanying your daughter? If she was in the midst of a difficult labor, why couldn't you have departed in time to attend the graduation? Let me explain. When he learned that our daughter was expecting a child, her partner dumped her. We were both in a state of mindless panic as we hurried to be by her side as she went into labor. She was expecting her first kid, and we were overjoyed to be there for her. In hindsight, we should have sent one of us to the commencement ceremony. We sincerely apologize for the significant oversight that we had. We neglected to think about how our absence would affect the twins' special day, because we were preoccupied with being with our daughter. We are attempting to rectify the situation, and we are fully aware that we are the ones responsible. Incredible Maple, AITA, you two, bring up the topic of partiality. It may appear that way, but we truly do not have favorites. Up. Both of us adore our kids very much. Because we were naive, we made a hasty choice that we deeply regret. Descending into the Ulcadots. Is it true that your twin daughters were graduating at the same time that your eldest daughter gave birth? There was no way you could have attended their graduation and then been there for your eldest daughter. Is your eldest daughter married, or did she give birth with a partner, a best friend, or both? She should probably just let you go to her sister's graduation instead of insisting that you go. It would have been possible for you to maintain phone communication. Instead of splitting up, one of you could have gone and the other could have stayed to live stream the wedding. It would have been possible to arrange for the graduation to be live streamed. I think it would have been AITA if you hadn't gone at all, and had made sure your eldest wasn't alone. Likewise, my sister. I understand that she might not have been thinking clearly. Despite being inadvertent, squidos went uda. You have just demonstrated to your twins that you value your eldest daughter more highly than they do. They missed out on a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity because you were elsewhere. In most cases, labor is time-consuming. You might have informed your older daughter that the rest of the family would be there after the graduation, or you and your spouse could have split up the duties, one attending the commencement and the other attending to the hospital. On the contrary, your twins were probably among the few individuals who did not have someone around to bolster them. During this momentous occasion, to make amends to them, you will need a considerable amount of time. As for those who took the time to read and reply to my initial post, I am truly grateful. I want to start by stating that my husband and I love all of our children equally and never meant to harm our twins. It blew up much more than I anticipated, and I appreciate all of the honest input. The significance of the twins' graduation slipped my mind. It was a disastrous error in judgment because we acted hastily. In response to a frequent commenter question, I had a miscarriage scare while carrying the twins, so we were in a rush to have our daughter give birth. When our eldest daughter went into labor, all of the dread and terror I felt then came flooding back. There was an intense need to be by her side, and we were petrified that something may go wrong. I showed my husband the original post and the comments after reading them. He then showed him the responses we received. He acknowledged the need of our honest apologies and was very moved by the feedback. Gathering as a family was our decision. It was essential, but it was also one of the most difficult talks we've ever had. We deeply regret missing our twins' graduation and the anguish we caused them, and we apologized to them for it. Tearfully, my husband acknowledged that we had made a mistake and humbly sought their forgiveness. I went along with it, saying what he had said and regretting that I couldn't be there for them at this momentous occasion. Despite their understandable ongoing distress, the twins paid attention. Although he acknowledged that healing will take time, our son stood out to express his gratitude for our apology. Our daughter conveyed the pain of feeling unimportant and promised to do her best to mend our relationship. Our apologies were eventually accepted by both of them. Their loved ones who were there for them are being invited to a private party that we are throwing exclusively for them. Although it couldn't make up for the graduation we couldn't attend, it was a small gesture that demonstrated our caring. We have learned a lot about communicating and setting priorities from this experience. Please accept our deepest apologies for the hurt we have caused. We pray that our family can overcome this tragedy and become stronger for having gone through it. Thank you, Reddit, for being so brutally honest. I apologize for hurting my two beautiful babies. After 2 miscarriages, my husband abandoned me to assist his female best friend, and I'm terrified of giving birth on my own. I discovered later that he had cheated on me, and they had been seeing one other for months. One of my husband's dearest friends is named Anna. They decided it would be best for themselves to stay friends after dating for a while and having a long history of friendship. So far, this connection has been great for me. A vehicle accident involving Anna's brother occurred on the same day that I gave birth. She called my husband in the dead of night, pleading with him to take her to the hospital, where her brother was admitted an hour away from our house because she was too terrified to drive herself. While I was still half sleeping, my husband hurriedly informed me that he agreed and then left the house. After waiting a few hours, I felt the start of labor and contacted my husband. I finally gave up trying to reach him and instead contacted my dad, who kindly offered to drive me to the nearby hospital, which was just 12 minutes away. My fear of giving birth alone stems from my history of miscarriages 3 and stillbirth 1. My husband assured me that he would always be by my side. Hey, guess what? Not at all. My dad contacted him while I was in labor and finally answered, explaining that he had lost his phone in all the commotion. We called him many times during my labor and delivery. My dad told him that he will miss the birth of his child no matter how quickly he drives anymore. Our daughter was only 5 hours born when my husband eventually arrived. By that time, I had already transferred to the maternity unit, and he interpreted it as a sign that he had already messed up, so his arrival was irrelevant. I was so overwhelmed with emotion and trembling when he arrived that I refused to let him see our kid. I did let my husband to hold and play with the baby after discharge because I didn't want his presence to ruin my time with the baby. Even though I was having trouble feeding her, I wanted her birth to be a joyful experience. I lifted the baby up so my husband, who was in a terrible mood, could see her, and I urged him to stand by the window. I informed him to go, and that after we're both healthy and out of the hospital, he can visit the baby at my dad's house. I also informed him that we're probably getting a divorce. While defending himself, he sobbed and apologized, explaining that Anna's brother was in a critical condition and that, even if he is now healthy, she needed him. Even though Anna's parents were present, she isn't very close to them, and her condition was intolerable. He asked me whether I cared, and I told him no, because his daughter is already second fiddle to him and has accomplished nothing more than being born. She will not be neglected as I prioritize my health and my girls. With that, my spouse departed. Nevertheless, a few days later, Anna contacted me to complain that I was being overbearing and that she had never seen someone so heartless as myself for refusing to let a father to see his child. That this was my husband's decision and not mine was what I told her. But now I feel guilty about what I'm doing and that I'm robbing my baby of the love of both her parents. She now spends a couple hours a day with my spouse. You, AITA? First edit. I think this is helpful information that might clarify my anger. Life or death was not looming over Anna's brother. The majority of his severe wounds were located on his arms and legs. Although he did get a concussion, he quickly regained consciousness. Both of Anna's parents were present, and they oversaw all of the hospital operations. Anna had my husband's emotional support there. I did allow my husband to see our kid shortly after my release. He handled the baby, interacted with it, and even there, I don't get why my husband wasn't carrying his phone. We were both aware that the baby was due at any moment. Anna was another one we attempted to contact, but she too did not answer. They knew Anna's brother would be fine the moment they heard I was pregnant. He patiently waited for his brother to come to while he fed Anna and made sure she was okay. After visiting his daughter, he may have returned to have a conversation with the brother. Time would have passed for him. 2. A lot of people misunderstood. It's irrational and foolish of him to think that I am stopping him from ever seeing his child. Upon our release and safe arrival to my dad's house, he saw her in person approximately 1 day later. I didn't think another day would make much of a difference since he already purposefully avoided her for 5 hours and prioritized Anna. Plus, he was overjoyed to see the newborn and loved spending time with her. It's been 2 months already. Additionally, I am not upset that he went to see Anna. His lack of urgency in returning to us has me fuming. I was already running late when he abruptly left me in the middle of the night. Communicating with their sister just adds salt to the wound. Graduation is a once-in-a-lifetime event, but our son has been very forthright in telling us that he values his sister and us more than a baby with a whole lifetime of potential. He went on to explain that his sister wouldn't even bother to respond to trash parents, so there's no use in trying to talk to her. My hubby seems to be quite impacted by this. He puts up a fight, but every time the twins disregarded him or said anything nasty, I could see the anguish in his eyes. He proposed that, as an act of reparation, we lavish them with gifts and take them on special excursions for the whole week. We wanted to find a unique method to recognize their. Surely he could have entrusted Anna's care to her parents and hurried? Neither her age nor her mental health status indicate that she is a youngster. Edit 3. I apologize for the numerous revisions. What if my baby was born again as a stillbirth? Someone just messaged me about this. Since we stopped communicating after I gave baby, he had no way of knowing. It was a real possibility, but I am grateful that my baby is healthy and happy. The fact that he swooped in to save her in the dead of night, when you were already that far along in your pregnancy, is irrelevant to the comments about Aurelia and the Queen. Even when he's not at home, a good husband would never leave his pregnant wife without his phone. He ought to have hurried to be by your side the moment he learned you were in labor. He bypassed you and your daughter in favor of Anna. He failed to be present for her during the most crucial moment of your lives. Then he decided to vent his frustrations on you by phoning Anna. Despite the fact that I do not suffer from jealousy, I could never stand his behavior or his blatant preference for Anna over you. I would also be seriously contemplating getting a divorce. At the very least, marital therapy. His thoughts and his relationship with Anna are also something I would be worried about. Julana, I still can't get past his phoning Anna to vent his frustrations and tell her about this. No. 5115E. No, none of these justifications involving his phone get at the heart of the matter. He was completely wrong to dash off to Anna's side. She ought to have been there to help her brother and parents. She had no business relying on your spouse. Your husband put Anna's needs before those of his own wife, even though you had already gone through 3 miscarriages. And then he rationalized his decision to remain with Anna by saying that he had messed up by neglecting you. Afterwards, Anna gave me a call and told me that I was being very controlled and that this was the best. Where on earth does it make sense for her to reprimand you over the phone? They are far too emotionally attached for your marriage to last if she thought it was fine to get involved. Put your affairs in order and give them space. Monkeys abound, and he's a major pain in the neck for bringing it up with Anna as well, particularly because he was already aware that his relationship was in jeopardy. On top of likely fucking, it's obvious they're having an emotional affair. Route 03, Plain Jane Lane, NTA. Their affair is obvious, I'll say it anyway. He should never have abandoned you. It would have been easier for her to hail a cab or use Uber. Your gut feelings are always right. Just so you know, the fact that he returned to her following his disagreement with you tells me everything. Removed, he contacted her instead of returning to her. His decision to drive her is understandable. I can't say that I blame him for not making it to the birth if he knew he would be late. I could tell that seeing his baby was second place to spending 5 hours with Anna, since he decided to do so. It would have been expected that he would have come to meet his infant if that was his top priority. I initially believed it wasn't cruel to keep him apart from his kid for another day or two, given how much he missed her. None of this is.